yo, freedom, oh yo, 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 radio freedom, oh yo, yo, oh yo, 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 radio freedom, oh yo, yo, oh yo, 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 oh yo, yo, oh yo, yo, yo. America sai mahado sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun jinjina barbado amma China sun masu sai tarado sun ji su ma kuma sun yaba da mun kukurto sai ku sai ta kuri da kun ga mun kukurdo inda mun kukurdo kowa ya dan mun murdo radio freedom radio freedom Radio Freedom masu yin kidado da ku ji mu kun ga ko a Eldorado sai ku kamo mu tashar mu kun ga mu kukurdo Radio mu da farin jinin ta ta kukurdo ayyukan mu na maza kaga su mun lallado wasa sai yara wasa sai yara wasa sai yara masu gardo gardo mu ba aiki ko shine mun kagado kayan aikin kuwa babu wanda mun gaggado kuma nisan ko idan kun kama gummun murdo za ku ji mu nan a birnin ƙauye kamun kurdo kai fi muryar mu kai fi muryar mu kai fi muryar mu sautin ya karado kuma nisa ku ji muryar ta su dado za ku kamo mu ta ma zayau zayau mun kurdo muryar jama'a muryar yanci ta sadado yan siyasar mu a Najeriya da mata fado yakin zaɓe ku yakin zaɓe ku yakin zaɓe ku har jaha ta Ondo daga damtse ku yi kamfen har jaha can ta Edo sai ku zo ga radio freedom kukurdo jita jita kuma ganganin rudu ba mafato labaran mu sai mun bincika kafin miyar yado sannan mu faɗawa duniya mu kurdo shafukan mu kuma ko a kwamfuta ko sai ku sai ta kuri da rediyo mun murdo ba bambanci wariyar launin fata ba karkato babu san kai ko batun harara ba mutum kudo ba ko sawa kai ba ko sawa kai sawa kai ma sai ka zo gidado mure jama'a ko wata kira ku tece ka ji kan zaɓe ku zo ku sai saya mun kurdo sai shirin mu na mu kyakkyata yanzu za mu fado inda ranka jo na tsohuwar zumadun mahado yaro sabon mutum yaro sabon mutum zai dinga yado ga kimiyyar musulunci gagarin misala lokaci ga fatawa ilimi kwando kwando
is on your program. His full biography is at the back of the program. And without wasting any more time, I'd like to introduce Professor Andrea Brigaglia, who joins us online. Prof, welcome.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
You are loud and clear.
The hosts of this event, His Excellency the Governor of Kano State, Your Excellency the Governor, the Royal Father of the House of Emirate Sassel, the celebrant, His Excellency Sarkin Malam Muhammadu Sanusi, biyu, the blessed family of Sheikh Ibrahim Yasir, all the distinguished analysts and guests, scholars and sheikhs, my greetings of peace to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am indeed thankful to the organizing committee of this event, in particular Ibrahim Sanusi for having had the personal exam. We say that I can't or thinking he has worked in the leadership to such distinguished and such an auspicious event. This was an invitation that I must say I accepted with a feeling of honor that actually bordered embarrassment. And I want to start with a brief acknowledgement of the man who has guided me my close time from Nigeria since I was little more than a teenager, because I have to do haq to those who have the haq over me. He is my mentor and guide, Sheikh Bashir Buhari al-Mahmoud, and I want to say that I was sitting with him in his house in Jambulo, Kano, in 2014, when the news of the appointment of Sanusi Sanusi as new emir of Kano after the passing away of the beloved father of the people of Kano and Hajj reached us. So we asked the Sheikh to put some, to give us his opinion and bless us with his opinion. As a response, the Sheikh not only prayed for the new emir, but he also added an additional prayer that has a specific significance for me today. He said, let us also pray that one day you will be appointed as a Khalifa of the Tijaniya, as his grandfather was appointed before him. And he pointed with his finger to a laminated letter in the signature of Sheikh Ibrahim Yas from the time when he appointed Emir Sanusi the first. This also showing Sheikh Malam Bashir, Kano, in particular the Kano Royal House in fact, you know, the excitement, the first boom of in Nigeria, the first visit of Sheikh Ibrahim Yas in the late 40s and early 50s. He was forced to leave his home in the state and move to Kano in exile. For him and for his family then, the Kano of Dabo, the Kano of Abdullahi Bayero, the Kano of Muhammad Sanusi the first, was not only the proverbial Tiwa for everyone finds business, but he was also a concrete anchor of safety and security. His house is one of the few places where I witnessed the whole parties, including the lady of Tifa, the Jania, with the same name of the so Khalifa Sanusi first. Here is a customary piece of gift and sent
So, yawa. Fifty gona ita za ka ci yalar fa'iya.
mana.
Mun mutum kenan. da injiniya Sanusi Idris kenan ɗaya daga cikin ɗan kwamitin da suka shirya wannan taro na shi karrama wato a nan jihar Kaduna, inda ya bayyana cewa daga cikin mutane da suka ci wannan taro akwai wato mataimakiyarsu, akwai gwamnan jihar Kaduna wanda mataimakiyarsa na wanda ya wakilce shi da kuma sarakuna da dama da kuma ɗan takarar gwamna a cikin tafiyar daga jihar kuma Profesa Hajji Shehu wato shugaban Islamic Forum na jami'ar Bayero da tsohon takarar shugabancin kasar da a jam'iyyar wato Muslim Makasu da sauran manyan mutane a cikin da wajen kasar nan da suka halarci wannan taro. Ita wannan taro da wanda tafiya a wannan gari na da ake bayyana wato shi kansa tsohon sarki wato Muhammadu Sanusi irin gwamnati da ya sha a lokacin daga lokacin da yake wato gwamna na babban bankin Najeriya zuwa sarauta ta jihar Kano da sauran makamai da ake bayyana masu sauraro za mu ci da kan kasancewa a wannan taron.
Thank you so much for that very personal but also very detailed paper on Muhammad Sanusi II icon. In talking about His Highness, Professor said in celebrating Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi, we are actually celebrating our past, present, and future. And it is no doubt that his life and work actually continue to be continue to be significant. And the North and the rest of Nigeria move forward that his ideas are critical and relevant to the journey. And this is why the Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi II will continue to be relevant. Thank you so much, Professor, for that remark. And I don't know if there's a paper that you wrote, because I'm sure there are many here who would love to get soft copies. And many organizers can make that possible. Both journalists are here as well as attendees. I'm sure would like to have a copy of that very detailed presentation. Thank you once again, Professor. And now we're getting to a little break because we have a lot of people who have a lot to say about the Khalifa. And so we want to take a few, and if we may start with His Excellency, the Governor of Sokoto State, if I could ask Clancy, Governor of Sokoto State, Malam Muhammadu, please have a deliver his civil message. Thank you. A round of applause, please, as he comes up.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وصلى الله على النبي الكريم. Majabata ably represented Governor Dr. Your Highness, the Chairman of this very presidency, and the elder of Muhammad Nuhu Bamali, the celebrant at the leader and members of his family, Representative Senator Karrama Saraki, Right Honorable Ali Ahmad, former Speaker, the standard flag bearer of our party in 2019, Kano, Alhaji Alpha, very eminent scholars, my brother, Mr. and guest speaker, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I bring fraternal greetings and brotherhood of the people of Sokoto State, His Highness on this very auspicious and special event marking your 60th birthday. Indeed, it is possible for us to physically be here and to celebrate this icon. 60 years down the line, His Highness Sanusi II has traversed so many spheres of life, has carried out very many challenging responsibilities, and has done in those responsibilities exceedingly well. He deserves to be celebrated. Thank Allah for the service of humanity. You have from the degrees to the banker, the academic, the activists. I don't know why that was missing in so many of us. It has been an activist in where activism may not be tolerated. You cannot take that away from him. If it is intellectual activism, it is activism in banking reforms, it is activism even in traditional institutions and reforms, or even in personal life. He has been a very courageous personality, even at very, very high costs. But he speaks and he says it as he perceives it and understands it, and without meaning any harm. Your Highness, you have done quite well for the Ummah, we have done quite a lot for the Nigerian society. And indeed, we are very proud, I personally am proud to associate with you. We have come a long way, for those who may not know. But I and His Highness do know and understand where our paths cross and where we have been working together quietly and silently for the benefit of our Ummah and the society. Highness, on this day and going forward, we, the people of Local State, wish you very well. May Allah continue to guide you all of them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Another round of applause, please, for His Excellency, the Governor of State. And now we're going to take a video goodwill message from our chief host, the Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Muhammadu Sanusi, who is unavoidably absent. Malam.
We wish you a very happy birthday. I have a very pleasure to wish His Highness Muhammadu Sanusi a very happy birthday. He has accomplished much in life, and I wish him a better tomorrow. We had Malam Muhammadu to less than 70s when he was simply Sanusi learning Sanusi. He's very young, fellow I graduated from the University and clear about his future aspirations. He exuded a modern and progressive charm with a clarity of mind that manifested the heritage with which he expressed himself. Those attributes have been made through the decades. His bold thought and action. He has come to be recognized as one of the very best that this country has produced. I admire the immense correctional his veneration for the life of the mind, his cultivation of knowledge, his dedication to logic and reason, and his proven ability to execute decisions with advance. His Highness Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi has stood out as an academic, banker, and risk manager par excellence. By the time he was his first, he then moved on to become a central bank of global rank, a reform-minded emir, and a distinguished Islamic scholar. As a public intellectual, he has had clear thoughts for progressive Nigeria, a vision of rational economic choices and enlightened public leadership. He is a man of realities and of our decades of friendship reflect our mutual admiration and a commitment to being frank about the future. He has spoken often about how he evolved, but that can be reassessed and perhaps reinterpreted in reverse, given the things he has said, done, and continued to thrive. I thank his and the service he continues to render Nigeria in general, and to the Muslim Ummah, the key leader and Khalifa of
The remarks of His Excellency Malam Muhammadu Sanusi, the Governor of Kaduna State. Before we continue with the goodwill messages, can I ask people with cameras to please be a little bit thoughtful and understand that we want you to do your job, but we also want people who've traveled from different places to be here to actually get the best of this event. And so if you bring the best of this event, so if you got that, either way, the phone or the camera is really just listening. Thank you so much. And now for the next goodwill message, microphone taking His Royal Highness, the Emir of Ring, the message. Take the microphone, please, guys. Yes. There.
Okay, see, Karrama.
Short and sweet and to the point. His Royal Highness, the Emir of India, thank you very much. The next goodwill remarks are from His Royal Highness, the Emir of Haji Isa II. He can also be given the mic, or he can choose to come up here. It's really up to him.
Your Highness, the Chairman of the Khalifa of Tanzania, Malam Muhammadu Sanusi. Your Highness, I beg to stand at this note of I was living in a house. Why? Because wanting the issue more.
A madadin jama'a na masarautar Awai, muna mika saƙon fatan alherinmu ga Khalifan Tijjaniya. A gare mu jama'a Awai, misali da muka gani na imani da kaddara wanda ba za mu manta da shi ba shine akan Khalifan Tijjaniya. Don sai ya yi koyi da cewa a cikin ƙa'idodin imani shine ka imani da kaddara mai kyau ko mummuna. Mu a gare mu mun koyi wannan kuma ba za mu manta da shi ba a wajen Khalifa. Muna fata wannan imani da ya yi Allah ya saka mai rubutun alheri. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jawabi ke da aka saurara yanzu daga bakin sarkin Awai, inda ya bayyana jawabinsa da yaren Hausa, ba da cewa
Thank you very much, His Royal Highness. And now I'd like to call the sister to the Khalifa, Dr. Malam Abubakar Abba. She is also a lecturer at the Federal College of Education. Dr. Malam Abubakar Abba, please come up to deliver your goodwill message.
Jawabi ke da aka saurara yanzu haka daga bakin uwa ga Khalifan Tijjaniya wato Muhammad Sanusi, Dr. Maryam Abubakar Abba, da malama ce ta ilimi. Daga nan zuwa lokaci ga ta da za ta hau wato zuwa wannan guri za ta gabatar da nata jawabin.
من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Wasallallahu ala nabiyil kareem. All protocols are duly observed. I stand here humbly to represent the family of that great person who I consider as my father as well as a mentor, the Khalifa of Tijaniya Sufi faith sect in Nigeria, His Royal Highness, the Emir of Kano. We always see him as a family man who never left his family despite his commitments. He always have time for us, with his support to advise us in terms of education, office work, matrimonial, and all other social activities. He always have an attentive listening ear for us. Whenever we consult him for advice, the outcome is always the best. Alhamdulillah. Apart from the deep care he has for us as his family, he also has an innate passion for the girl child education. And we always advocate that the girl child must be educated. And she has to be properly taken care of. And she has to be cultured in all aspects of life. That is why he reformed an Islamic social reform while he became the Emir of Kano. We thank him for that. Alhamdulillah. He has a deep sympathy for the masses, the poor, the orphans, and the less privileged ones. Kano will never forget you, sir. We are always praying that one day you will come back to continue what you have started. The Emir and the Khalifa of Tijaniya in Nigeria has a thirst for knowledge, and he has a passion of reading. That passion of reading is what led him to make a habit of reading always, and that's why he has acquired the vast knowledge in all aspects of life. And this is what made him an intellectual also. He is a reflection of a mirror and of emulation. So, to us, Khalifa is a father, a mentor, a guide, everyone could ever ask for. Alhamdulillah, سامحوني بأن أتكلم باللغة العربية نظرا لأنني يعني دائما أيسما أقول أعتبر هذا الرجل العظيم لأنه شخصية فريدة من نوعه. يعني أنا أعتبره أبي في أي مكان، أبي الذي أفتخر به ولا أن أستطيع أن أقارنه مع أي شيء، وهو الذي أخذني إلى دولة السودان لأول مرة، وقد كنت قد صدمت في ذلك اليوم. قد حدث لي شيء لا أنساه أبدا، ولكن لخير. يعني قال لي يا مريم أحسب أن تذهبي إلى السودان لتدرسي هناك، عسى أن ينفع به الأمة الإسلامية. وها هو قد حصل، لقد تحصلت على البكالوريوس والماجستير والدكتوراه في نيجيريا، وما كنت أعمل في مجال التعليم ولا أود أن أبدل التعليم بأي شيء. يعني كل هذا من فضلك، جزاك الله.
He deserves a big round of applause, I'm sure. Thank you so much. See, you people, there's a government there, and you people are blocking his view. If the security come and start dealing with you, don't come and talk to me. Thank you very much again for that. I want to announce a slight adjustment to the program. If you look at your program, we had planned for 2 sessions. We're going to try and cram everything into 1 session and try and conclude at 1:30, inshallah. And the reason is that we've had a few issues, including, unfortunately, an accident by Professor Makari. I'm happy to say he's fine, but he was involved in a car accident coming for this event, and so his session is not going to take place. So just wanted to let you know so that when we start moving things around, you're not confused about what is going on. We'll try and keep things short and sweet and to the point. And that's the end of the goodwill messages. Thank you very much. And now I want to call Professor Salisu Shehu to come and do the book review, after which we will have a book presentation very quickly before going to the guest speech. Professor Salisu Shehu happens to be my classmate. He's now better educated than. He's the Director, Center for Islamic Civilization and Interfaith Dialogue, Bayero University, Kano, and also the VC at VC at a university in Sumaila in Kano State. He's also the Deputy Secretary General, Nigeria Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. Professor Salisu Shehu, please, my very educated former classmate.
Kenan da za a saurara yanzu daga bakin Professor Salisu Shehu, shugaban wato sashen Islamic Forum na Jami'ar Bayero, inda zai fara gabatar da jawabinsa.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Of Kaduna State, ably represented here by Her Excellency the Deputy Governor, Your Excellency the Governor of Sokoto State, Barrister Aminu Waziri Tambol, Your Highness Khalifa Muhammadu Sanusi II, the celebrant for whom we all gathered here today, the chairman of the occasion, His Highness the Emir of Zazzau, Ambassador Ahmad Nuhu Bamalli, other highnesses that are here, distinguished scholars, and guests, all other protocols duly and most respectfully observed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your Excellency, Your Highness, I stand here to make a very quick review of the book that has been authored and published in your honor, the farewell address of His Highness Muhammadu Sanusi II, the former Emir of Kano, a brief analysis. This is a book that has been put together in Hausa, English, and Arabic. The speech upon which the analysis was made, Your Highness, was your speech that was delivered at the point of departure from Gidandabu on the 9th of March 2020. And the gentleman standing besides me is Malam Muhammadu Sanusi, the personal assistant to His Royal Highness the Emir of Misau, who transcribed the speech, which was originally delivered in Hausa language. He transcribed it, and he made commentaries on it in Hausa also. Both the text of the speech and the commentaries he made on it were then translated from Hausa to English, and I believe also from Hausa to Arabic. So the book, as it is, can be described, Your Highness, not an ingausa as we normally say, when there is a combination of Hausa and English, we say ingausa. But this is a book that appears to be unique and somehow novel, at least here with us, that puts together three languages at the same time, English, or Hausa, English, and Arabic. Maybe we can say in Garausa instead of in Gausa. He has done a very good job of it, an excellent one for that matter, Your Excellency and Your Highness. And I think the most amazing thing that he did in his commentary and analysis of your speech, Your Highness, is that he expounded and he extolled some of the very inspiring attributes and personal attributes and personal virtues that you exhibited, Your Highness, in both posture and in the text of the speech, and at that very critical moment, very critical, very trying moment, Your Highness, but you exhibited those attributes and virtues that are really very inspiring. He expounded this and extolled them in his commentary on your speech, and these include, among other things, courage, bravery, and brevity, all at the same time. But these were also ornamented with calmness, humility, and humbleness, and sobriety. And as it were, intelligence, brilliance, and sharpness of mind and thought. Most importantly, however, Your Highness, most importantly, were the attributes of faith, conviction, and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which you showed at the moment. As I was watching the video, after reading the book, I could not but had to look for the video again. And I was watching the video this morning. I was looking at the posture and the very inspiring, insightful, and admonition nature of the speech. I was only remembering, Your Highness, I was only remembering the submission made by Mu'minu Ali Fir'aun when he says, فَسَتَذْكُرُونَ مَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. Your Highness, this was what perhaps aptly describes your posture and the power of your speech at that moment. One other thing which I must say is that Malam Anas, by doing this, has contributed towards ensuring that the speech lasts longer and remains permanently enduring. Because as the Arabs say, Ma kutiba karra wa ma hufiza farra. Whatever is written or printed lasts longer and endures and survives time. But whatever is just memorized tends to be easily forgotten. By doing this, Malam Anas has contributed in ensuring that this speech lasts longer and survives ages and will remain for centuries. When all of us may not be on this earth, people will still have it handy to read. One amazing thing that he has done is that at almost each point, he supported his commentary and analysis with relevant verses of the Quran and ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That makes the book very rich and very educative also. I can see my classmate. I believe she cannot intimidate me, but I should be decent enough to stop at the time. Your Highness, I think if you look at the book, the Hausa version of the section of the book is very excellent. The Hausa is very standard, and the orthography is almost near perfect. He has done a very good job of it, and I believe that there are only very few editorial corrections that need to be made as far as the Hausa version is concerned. Malam Anas, you see, I'm coming from the university. I will not only say that you've done good, you've done good, you've done good. We also criticize. The English and Arabic rendition of the book are poorer in quality than the Hausa text. Of course, the speech and the commentaries were originally made in Hausa, but the English text and the Arabic text are not as good as the Hausa version. I will therefore suggest and recommend that if a second edition of the book is to be made, and looking at the person of Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi, who is erudite, fluent, proficient in both English and Arabic, there may be need to rewrite that section of the book. But as it were, the book is very rich, very inspiring, and I recommend it to all. Your Excellency, Your Highness, I congratulate you on this achievement. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Sadi Sushehu, and also commendation for the author of the book. A round of applause for the two gentlemen, please. And quickly, I'm going to invite Honorable Ali Ahmed, who's here representing the former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, to do the book presentation. This shouldn't last too long, and then we go into our guest speech.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So I will not offend the existing protocol. And here as a representative of the former Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, who is unavoidably absent because he's not on ground.
Malam Muhammadu Sanusi.
My instruction is to make a presentation of this important book. The book is important to me as an aspiring scholar. The book is about 101 pages, and it tries to capture the lives and times of what the celebrant today said at that epochal moment. Now, I was told that our father, the Emir of Misau, took over the publication of the book, and the organizers asked me to make presentation, maybe still thinking that I am still a politician. I have ceased to be a politician 2 years ago. I'm now an academic, as Dean of Faculty of Law in Bayes University. But a politician is always a politician. I'm going to do a presentation of this book, as the organizers have said that they will want more publication of the book so that it can be given to Nigerians. free of charge. I took up that gauntlet and informed the person whom I'm representing, because as a Dean of Law, I can only offer a little. And as Professor Sushil has said, the rendition in Hausa and Arabic expectedly is not of that high quality as the Hausa version. Of course, one aspect of the celebrants that we have not extolled today, Governor Tambuwal brought our memory to the activism of the celebrant, activist as a scholar, activist as a banker, activist as a traditionalist. And we hope he will bring that activism to the Khalifaship of the Tijaniya Ibrahimiyya Kaulahiyya order that he is now leading, so that this book and the oratory, and that is the emphasis I want to lay. As I said, Dr. Tambuwal has given us one dimension, and I'm giving that dimension of oratorical prowess of the celebrant. And you don't need to go far. The 3-page farewell address contained in this book, unedited, the mukhtasar of that, you will have seen how he exhibits his oratorical prowess at that epochal moment. So in order to support the further publication of this book, after scholarly review by people like by professors in English and Arabic, Senator Bukola Saraki is supporting further publication of this book with a sum of 5 million naira. If you give me 1 more minute, yeah. My leader, Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, himself and I have come a long way. Indeed, there were times I was called Tambuwal of Kwara. I remember vividly when we were at the House of Representatives with the governor. He was our speaker and I was a member. And please, 1 more minute, Nigeria. The challenge, Nigeria was charged by the bluntness of the senator. He had said something very true about us at the House of Representatives, and it was a hard pill for us to swallow. And if you remember, that 7th assembly was an assembly like no one. It challenged the president, it shook the president. So when it was the time of the then central bank governor, Nigeria was shaking. And uncharacteristically, he was given a platform to appear at the floor of the House of Representatives to come and defend himself. Now, he looked, permit me that word, to face 360 lions and defend his accusation. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of his address, which was televised live, he not only disarmed the 360 members, he convinced the whole of the country that what he was saying was the truth. In light of this, the governor of Sokoto State, in aid of further publication of this book, so that we see the origin that these 2-3-page sources information contain, and then further reviewed in English and Arabic, The governor said also he is supporting further publication of this book with another sum of 5 million. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Ali Ahmed. And quickly, I have 3 minutes. And I'm inviting Engineer Abba Kabiru Yusuf. He contested for the government in Kano State. And yes, once a politician, always a politician, but it's important to hear his thinking.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Colloquium in honor of our leader, our senior brother, a distinguished Nigerian, a transformer, His Excellency, His Royal Highness Muhammadu Sanusi II, whom we are celebrating. A lot has been said about this gentleman. I don't think there is a need for me to take much of your time. But the little I know about him, as a leader, as a senior brother, I must say His Highness the Khalifa is a very compassionate, trustworthy, and fearless person. Very determined to succeed in everything he sets to achieve. His Royal Highness, within the banking sector, within the traditional institution, especially in Kano State and in Nigeria as a whole. Your Royal Highness, I must say that we, the good people of Kano State, have missed you. We have missed you, but I want to say that we are still with you. To us, you are still a leader. Let me say that yesterday when I arrived in Kaduna, I and my entourage decided to pay a homage to His Highness. somebody from Zamfara State came to me, a very young man, and said, Your Excellency, if you permit me, I would like to be among your entourage. I said, You are welcome. We proceeded to the palace of our leader. And when I was introducing the gentleman, he spoke to His Highness and told him that, Your Highness, if you can remember, you employed over 300 youths when you were the governor of the central bank. And I happen to be one of those young men that worked in the central bank during your tenure. His Highness was so surprised that I know deep down he was happy, extremely happy. This gentleman is now the Commissioner of Industries and Commerce in Zamfara State. And he told His Highness many of his likes are now working in different companies in different countries across the world. Your Highness, we thank you for your concern. We want to assure you that we are with you. We will work with you wherever we are, and we pray to Almighty Allah to grant you long life, good health, and prosperity, so that you can continue serving humanity, especially the good people of Kano. So thank you and bless you.
Jawabi kenan daga ɗan takarar gwamna a jam'iyyar jihar Kano, Abubakar Yusuf, inda ya jawabai da kuma daga cikin jawaban nasa da ke bayyana cewa wato kodayaushe suna ɗaukar Muhammad Sanusi a matsayin shugaba, ko ba su da ɗaukar sa a matsayin shugaba ba, suna tare da shi a duk inda ya sanya kafafuwansa.
The person who will be delivering the guest speech, titled Muhammad Sanusi II, The Doing of Nigeria's Financial Systems Transformation. Professor Kingsley Moghalu is not a stranger. He is the president and CEO of Sogatu Strategies, LLC, a global investment advisory firm, and the president of the Institute for Governance and Economic Transformation. Many of us know him as the person who contested for a seat of President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria during the 2019 elections. He also, of course, worked with the Khalifa at the Central Bank of Nigeria as a deputy governor. Again, the full profile of Professor Kingsley is contained in your brochure, and if you want to know more about who he is and what he has done, please feel free to read your brochure. I don't want to waste too much time because I think his speech is more important. And therefore, without much ado, I'd like to invite Professor Kingsley Moghalu to deliver the guest speech.
Thank you.
His Excellency, the Governor of Kaduna State, Malam El-Rufai, His Excellency, the Governor of Sokoto State,
Kowa BBC da an yaba da mun kukurto, Hassan Jamus da muryar Amerika sai mahado, sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun jinjina gwagwado. Amma China su ne masu sai tarado, sun ji su ma kuma sun yaba da mun kukurto. Sai ku sai ta koyi da kun ga mun kukurto, tunda mun kukurto kowa ya dan mun murdo. Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom masu yanke dado. Da ku ji mu kun ga ko a Eldorado. Sai ku kamo mu tashar mu kun ga mun kukurto. Rediyon mu da farin jinin ta ta kukurto. Ayyukan mu na maza ka ga su mun lallado. Wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara masu gardo-gardo. Kuma aiki kuwa shi ne mun kakado. Kayan aikin kuwa babu wanda mun gaggado. Kuma nisan ku idan kun kama kun mun murdo. Za ku ji mu nan a birni ƙauye kamun kurdo. Kaifin muryar mu, kaifin muryar mu, kaifin muryar mu sautin ya karado. Kuma nisa ku ji muryar ta su dado. Za ku kamo mu ta ma zayau mun kurdo. Muryar jama'a muryar yanci ta sadado, yan siyasar mu a Najeriya da mata fado. Yakin zaɓe ku yi, yakin zaɓe ku yi, yakin zaɓe ku yi har jaha ta Ondo. Daga damtse ku yi kamfen har jaha can ta Edo. Sai ku zo ga Radio Freedom kukurdo. Jita-jita kuma ganganin rudu ba mafato. Labaran mu sai mun bincika kafin miyar yado. Sannan mu faɗawa, sannan mu faɗawa, sannan mu faɗawa duniya mu kurdo. Shafukan mu kuwa ko a kwamfuta ko. Sai ku sai ta Freedom Radio mun murdo. Ba bambanci wariyar lanin fata ba karkato. Babu san kai ko batun harara ba mutum kudo. Ba ko sawa kai, ba ko sawa kai, ba ko sawa kai ma sai ka zo gidado. Muke jama'a kowa ta kira ku cece. Katukan zaɓe ku zo ku sai saya mun kurdo. Sai shirinmu na mu kyakkyata yanzu za mu fado. Inda ranka jona tsohuwar zuma don mamado. Yaro sabon mutum, yaro sabon mutum. Yaro sabon mutum zai dinga yado. Da kimiyyar musulunci gagar misala. Lokaci ga fatawa ilimi kwando-kwando. Kukan kuciya kusan su mai tunani kan gado. Shi ne mai gane abin da ke cewa a farfado. Idan rana ta, idan rana ta, idan rana ta fito haske zai budo. Sai shirinmu na kaci cin mu da Afirka Radio Freedom zai zarrafa do. na Kano ku kama dan mummurdo, Katsinawa zan fara wayo mamun kukurdo, da jigawa har wa 'yan Kaduna murdo, har Filato kun ga Jos nake nufi, babu shakka za ku je mu ranga ɗan kukurdo. A garin can na Maradu kun ga mun kukurdo, ko a zandar sai ku sai ta sai ku dan mummurdo, aya mai makon ga murya ta karado, har garin dosar ga mu nan mun kurdo, har garin dosar mata mai sai ku dan mummurdo. Wanda ke son yin tallaga mu mun kukurdo, ko abinci na garau-garau ne ko zubarodo, masu waina da alkubus da mando, ko abincin Chinese irin su kwado, kamfanoni sai ku zo ku tallan kukurdo. Kowa BBC da an yaba da mun kukurdo, Hassan Jamus da muryar Amerika sai mahado, sun gani kuma sun jinjina gwabado, amma China sun ne masu sai tarado, sun ji suma kuma sun yaba da mun kukurdo. Sai ku sai ta koyi da kun ga mun kukurdo, tunda mun kukurdo kowa ya dan mummurdo. Radio Freedom masu yanke dado, da ku ji mu kunga ko a Eldorado, sai ku kamo mu tashar mu kunga mun kukurdo. Rediyon mu da farin jinin ta kukurdo, ayyukan mu na maza ka gasu mun lallodo, wasa sai yara masu gardo. Kuma aiki kuwa shi ne mun kakado, kayan aikin kuwa babu wanda mun gagganto. Kuma nisan ku idan kun kama kun mummurdo, za ku ji mu nan a birnin ƙauye kamun kurdo. Kaifin muryar mu sautin ya karado, kuma nisa ku ji muryar ta su dado, za ku kamo mu ta ma zayau mun kurdo.
Of course, many people know me in the context of my now being a born. In years that many people consider a successful one. If I had not had the opportunity to serve our country alongside Malam Muhammadu Sanusi II, I would not be doing what I'm doing today. Few people have touched my life the way he has, in so many ways. That is a separate lecture itself. He has been so influential in my life, and I truly appreciate you, Malam Sanusi II. Sanusi was able, it's not my intention here to go into the technical details of the financial system reforms in an audience that is largely non-technical. But what I want to do is to highlight the factors that made the reforms necessary, the principles that drove the reforms, the main headline reforms, and to undertake an assessment of how these reforms have held up, including, as is natural with these kinds of transformations, an assessment of criticisms also of the reforms. Why were these reforms necessary? there were 5 main reasons. The first was the consolidation of Nigerian banks that took place between 2004 to 2005. When the then governor, Consolidation, said, the central bank said, that all the banks in Nigeria, there were about 89 banks then, would have to move from a minimum capital requirement of 2 billion naira to 25 billion naira within 18 months. Many banks had to scramble, and many felt that the time was too short. The second factor was the global financial crisis, which affected Nigeria through its second round effects. The global financial crisis affected Nigeria because it caused a drop in the price of oil. And the capital market of Nigeria, which was booming before the crisis, also suffered heavily. Many banks were exposed. They were lending people what we call margin lending people money to buy shares. Nigerians believed that the stock market would only go up. They didn't understand that it can also come down. So people were buying shares like there was no tomorrow. But when the financial crisis hit, everybody was exposed. When the oil price crashed from $147 a barrel to $47 a barrel, Nigeria was naked, exposed, nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. These events had huge, stressful consequences and impacts on the Nigerian financial system. If this great man had not intervened, many of us here would have lost the savings of our lives. So we had the consolidation of banks, we had the global financial crisis, and then third, we had weak corporate governance and weak risk management. This is where his background as a risk manager comes into play. That single factor was, of course, what Governor Tambuwal reminded us about: his activism, his desire to bring change in every situation he finds himself, and change for the better, not for the worse, was very instrumental to his success, the success of the bank, and the success of all of us. So the banks were not governed in Nigeria at the time, with very few exceptions. You're supposed to have a board of directors exercising supervisory authority over the management of the bank. But our managing directors in those days of our banks were emperors. And the boards of directors were merely their appendage. They would appoint you to the board if they felt you could be useful to them. And so many board members must be independent. Many of these banks were operating scams. Many of them were into pure fraud. The managing directors would go and set up shell companies, fake companies, and be lending money, shareholders' funds, depositors' funds, to those fake companies. This is stealing. Let me just be simple about it. Because there was no oversight, there was no corporate governance, the risks were not properly managed. Here came the risk manager to take care of this situation. The other reason was that there was also a very weak regulatory environment. The central bank was so focused on the consolidation that many people believed that somehow its eye went off the ball. And many of these banks that were trying to show that they had moved from 2 billion naira to 25 billion naira were engaged in the building of what we call bubble capital. The 25 billion they were presenting on their books, many of them, it was not real. Some of that money was from unauthorized sources. And when you have this type of situation, you have the makings of financial instability and financial crisis. So it wasn't just the global financial crisis that affected Nigerian banks. we had a homegrown banking crisis as well that stemmed from the absence of risk management and corporate governance in Nigerian banks. So, what were the principles that drove the reforms that Sanusi led? One was trust in banking and trust and banking. Governor Sanusi then would remind us that the reason people put their money in a bank is that when they go there, they believe that when they go to the bank, they will get their money. This is a core principle of banking, trust. You are putting your money in somebody else's hands to keep it for you, that when you come there, you will find your money. This is a very important, basic principle that drove the bank reforms that Governor Sanusi led. The second principle was financial stability. He emphasized systemic risk, the risk that was interconnected between the big banks especially, that if one bank failed, one big bank, confidence in the banking system will be lost, and people will go to the bank, rush to the bank to begin to draw their money down. And this destroys trust, it destroys confidence, and you have what we call a run on the banks. That's how banking systems collapse. So, but from the perspective of what happened to one bank, the impact it can have on the whole system, that is what we call systemic risk to the financial system. This was a driving principle of the reform. The third principle, deriving from this, was that Governor Sanusi and all of us agreed at the time, no bank will fail. No bank will fail. No depositor will lose one kobo of his or her money. This is very important. Those of us who are old enough to remember the failed banks in the 90s, when many people lost their life savings, some people had strokes, some people had hypertension. The crooked bankers that led to these scams were rewarded with appointments as ambassadors. Some became senators, others became all other things. But the people whose money they have managed badly suffered. Governor Sanusi was determined that this would not happen under his watch. The fourth principle was an emphasis on governance and risk management of banks. The fifth principle was on banking models. In the consolidation, every bank had to have a minimum of 25 billion naira in capital. This seemed a little bit unnatural, because if you go to every country of the world, you will have big banks, mega banks, you have big banks, you have medium-sized banks, you have small banks. Everyone according to his size. So he decided, and we all agreed, discussed and agreed, that there would be a new banking model in Nigeria, where we would have mega banks with global affiliates and global subsidiaries, national banks, and regional banks. And then we would have specialized banks, including what was referred to earlier, what my brother was speaking about, but he didn't quite call it by name, the introduction of non-interest banking, i.e. Islamic banking. I had the task as the head of the Financial System Stability Directorate of the Central Bank, leading the implementation of these reforms to roll out Islamic banking in Nigeria. I am not a Muslim, but the reason we did it was to expand financial access to people who did not like the idea of riba. But in a charged political environment, I took a lot of bullets with my head, including at the National Assembly, in front of the Speaker. Aminu Waziri Tambuwa. I accompanied the governor. I think all of us deputy governors were there. It was one battle in many battles in a long war of 5 years. And I am glad to say that we won the war. I don't know if we lost any battle. We won the war. General Khalifa, Muhammadu Sanusi II, we won the war. I am proud. I'm proud to have been a major general in the army. You were the general. I was a major general. So I remember all the bishops in the southern part of the country were calling me, so you're now the one to Islamize Nigeria, you? And I would smile and say, no, this is not the idea. This is a financial product, period. Don't read meanings into it because of the nature of our politics. And I'm glad to see that many of those Islamic banks have done very well. I was coming to Kano one day and I saw the managing director of one of them. He called everybody around and said, this is the man that made it possible for us, this Islamic bank. So, and I say to people today, to tell you how unnecessarily excited you people always become in this country. How many people today have become Muslims specifically because of Islamic Bank? Can you count? They cannot answer. So, Sanusi brought a lot of reforms. Another reform, another principle that drove the reforms was the principle of accountability. That when you break the law, there must be consequence. And the Central Bank of Nigeria was the first in the world to call bankers to account. Massive reform. People were accountable. Bankers who
BBC da an yaba da mun kokorto, a sun Jamus da muryar Amerika sai mahado, sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun jinjina gwargwado. Amma China sun ne masu sai tarado, sun ji suma kuma sun yaba da mun kokorto. Sai ku sai ta koyi da kun ga mun kokorto, tunda mun kokorto kowa ya dan mun murdo. Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom masu yanke dado. Da ku ji mu kun ga ko a Eldorado. Sai ku kamo mu tashar mu kun ga mun kokorto. Radio mu da farin jinin ta ta kokorto. Ayyukan mu na maza ka ga su mun lallodo. Wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara masu gardo. Kuma aiki kuwa shi ne mun kakado. Kayan aikin kuwa babu wanda mun ganganto. Kuma nisan ku idan ku kama gummun murdo, za ku ji mu nan a birnin ƙauyuka mun kurdo. Kaifin muryar mu, kaifin muryar mu, kaifin muryar mu sautin ya karado. Kuma nisa ku ji muryar ta su dado. Za ku kamo mu ta ma zayau zayau mun kurdo. Yau ga muryar jama'a muryar yanci ta sadado. Yan siyasar mu a Najeriya da mata fado. Yakin zaɓe ku, yakin zaɓe ku, yakin zaɓe ku har jiha ta Ondo. Daga damtse ku yi kamfen har jiha can ta Edo. Sai ku zo ga rediyo Freedom kurdo.
And that the act of the that without the approval of the National Assembly, and we explain this is not an approval, not a fiscal matter. This is a financial stability issue, and the central bank has the authority to stabilize the banks and to be a lender of last resort to the government of the country. And they understood. So those banks were saved. And to say one more thing about that decision, so it wasn't even a loss, it was like a business investment. Many people don't know this. Now, then the next was the Sanusi tsunami, as they called it, the Sanusi tsunami. The Caliph Muhammadu Sanusi, Governor Sanusi as his name was, fired 5 bank MDs in one day. He called them to his office and handed them their letters. He called them to his office and handed them their letters. There was weeping and gnashing of teeth. I can tell you, Nigeria had never seen a thing like this. A sheriff, a real sheriff, not some other sheriffs, a real sheriff had actually come to town. And people who thought they were beyond the law were brought to account. Then we established AMCO, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. I call this the Great Stabilization. The purpose of AMCO was to take away all the toxic loans on the books of the bank balance sheets and manage those loans, removing the toxic assets, non-performing loans from the books of the bank.
Kowa BBC da an yaba da mun kukurto, a sun Jamus da muryar Amerika sai mahado, sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun jinjina gwagwado. Amma China su ne masu sai tarado, sun ji su ma kuma sun yaba da mun kukurto. Sai ku sai ta kuri da kun ga mun kukurto, inda mun kukurto kowa ya dan mun murdo. Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom masu yanke dado. Da ku ji mu kun ga ko a Eldorado. Sai ku kamo mu tashar mu kun ga mu kukurdo. Rediyon mu da farin jinin ta ta kukurdo. Ayyukan mu na maza kaga su mun lallado. Wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara masu gardo gardo. Kuma aiki kuwa shi ne mun kakado, kayan aikin kuwa babu wanda mun gaggado. Kuma nisan ku idan kun kama gummo jama'a muryar yanci ta sarɗaɗo, 'yan siyasar mu a Najeriya da mata fado, yakin zaɓe ku yi, yakin zaɓe ku yi, yakin zaɓe ku yi har jiha ta Ondo. Daga damtse ku yi kamfen har jiha can ta Edo, sai ku zo ga rediyo Freedom mu kukkurɗo.
Some of the criticisms before I wrap up. Shareholders. Many people do not understand the nature of banking. As Governor Sanusi will say, you can set up a brewery, you can set up a tailoring shop, you can set up a cement factory, and you will not be bothered as much as if you set up a bank. Because banking is doing business with other people's money. 80% of the funds that a bank does business with is depositors' funds. And because of that, banking is the most regulated industry in the world. But in their usual manner, many Nigerians did not understand this. They saw it as just another business. I invested, I'm a shareholder. But we decided that the depositor will be king. And if investors make the wrong decisions, they could lose their shares. So this was a criticism of the reforms, but it came from a place of lack of understanding. That the depositor, innocent man or woman who came to a bank, trusting the bank, that when you go there, you'll get your money back and put your money there, we cannot allow you to lose your money. I'm wrapping up. Just give me one privilege as a keynote speaker. I'll be done very shortly, as the guest. So, another criticism that we have often heard is that, that Governor Sanusi was pursuing a personal vendetta against some of his colleagues in the banks. But the fact of the matter is that if the EFCC or any other agency of accountability or a regulatory body finds that you have committed infractions and decides to pursue you, it is the evidence that is driving those actions. It's not personal. Thank you. Thank you. So then the other criticism that we have heard is that of moral hazard. If the central bank is protecting the banks from failure, does it mean that no bank will ever fail again in Nigeria? Will this not make bankers reckless when they're doing business, knowing that the central bank will come to the rescue? This is something to be considered and, for us to think about in the long term. But these reforms have helped to stabilize the Nigerian financial system. Without a doubt, that is the judgment of everybody in this country. And so to conclude, what did the Sanusi reforms of the banking and financial system in Nigeria show? They showed two very important things. One, that Nigeria can succeed. Institutions can be run successfully. But they show that it's not all doom and gloom. That if you get the right people, make the right thing, and the consequences will be us to all and sundry, and the benefits will be. That's number one. Nigeria is the standard globally. What
su da an yaba da mun kukurto, asu Jamus da muryar Amerika sai mahado, sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun jinjina gwagwado. Amma China su ne masu sai tarado, sun ji su ma kuma sun yaba da mun kukurto. Sai ku sai ta koyi da kun ga mun kukurto, tunda mun kukurto kowa ya dan mun murdo. Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom masu yin kidado. Da ku ji mu kun ga ko a Eldorado, sai ku kamo mu tashar mu kun ga mun kukurto. Rediyon mu da farin jinin ta ta kukurto, ayyukan mu na maza ka gasu mun lallodo. Wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara masu gardo-gardo. Kuma aiki kuwa shi ne mun kakado, kayan aikin kuwa babu wanda mun gaggado. Kuma nisan ku idan kun kama kun murdo, za ku ji mu nan a birnin ƙauye kamun kurdo. Kaifin muryar mu, kaifin muryar mu, kaifin muryar masautin ya karado. Kuma nisa ku ji muryar ta su dado, za ku kamo mu ta ma zayau mun kurdo. Yau ga muryar jama'a muryar yanci ta sadado, yan siyasar mu a Najeriya da mata fado. Yakin zaɓe ku yi, yakin zaɓe ku yi, yakin zaɓe ku yi har jiha ta Ondo. Daga damtse ku yi kamfen har jiha can ta Edo. Sai ku zo ga Radio Freedom mu kukurto. Jita-jita kuma ganganin rudu ba mafato. Labaran mu sai mu bincika kafin miyar yado. Sannan mu faɗawa, sannan mu faɗawa, sannan mu faɗawa duniya mu kurdo. Shafukan mu kuwa ko a kwamfuta ko sai ku sai ta Freedom Radio mun murdo. Ba bambanci wariyar lanin fata ba karkato, babu san kai ko batun harara ba mutum kudo. Ba ko sawa kai, ba ko sawa kai, ba ko sawa kai ma sai ka zo gidado. Muje jama'a ko wata kira ku tuntuɓo, kada kan zaɓi ku zo ku sai saya mun kurdo. Sai shirin mu na mu kyakkyata yanzu za mu fado, inda ranka jona tsohuwar zumadun mahado. Yaro sabon mutum, yaro sabon mutum, yaro sabon mutum zai dinga yado. Ga kimiyyar musulunci gagar misala, lokaci ga fatawa ilimi kwando-kwando. Kukan kuciya kusan su mai tunani kan gado, shi ne mai gane abin da ke cewa a farfado. Idan rana ta, idan rana ta, idan rana ta fito haske zai budo. Sai shirinmu na kaci cin mu kukurdo. Da Afirka Radio Freedom sai zarrafa do. Za ku ji mu na Kano ku kama dan mun murdo. Katsinawa zan fara wayo ba mun kukurdo. Da jigawa har, da jigawa har, da jigawa har wa 'yan Kaduna murdo.
Religion of Kano, because the people were worshipping other things, and Islam was not the basic principle of life. So Yaji introduced the mosque, judiciary, and everything that we have. But reformed Kano Emirate or Sultanate, and he was guided by Bagili. And all the things that from far did, which people are claiming that they are permanent, they were as a result of city and all these things. So that maybe some of the things that certain cities were doing were aberration. But that's not the case, because what we did was ijtihad. So every time has its own time. Now we have a different society, we have a different interaction with people. Areas are just employees of state because they cannot take decisions that people would benefit people without the influence of the government. So in that case, people started questioning. So broadly speaking, there are about 4 aspects of his reforms as Sarkin Kano. The first relates to the Sarauta institution on its own. What he did as Sarkin Kano based on the Sarauta and the traditions. The most important is unity that he brought into the family. There are some members of the family that have not been appointed into positions because we know Sarauta is about inheritance. You are son of so, 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 and so. And there are families, we have them that have ruled Kano, but all of them from Sarkin Kano Dabo. And when you go back, Dabo was the first person who established that dynasty and established the kingmakers. But some of these people have been eliminated over time. They are not even considered. Some of them have spent several years looking for these titles. But when Sarkin Muhammad Sanusi came, he recognized them and brought them into the system. For example, one of them was a descendant of Abdullah Majid, who was the emir in 1855 to 1882. He was looking for title, he was not given. Sarkin Kano Alu, his family, they didn't have any title for about 50 years. Sarkin Kano Muhammad Inuwa for 50 years, not even a title of Niwa. So all this, he brought them and they became part of the system, which they should, as members of the royal family. Secondly, Sarkin Muhammad Sanusi is the first emir in the history of Kano not to have concubines. So this had implications in the management of the palace. And because we know in the past, the palace was generally managed by Wasoro. Now this didn't exist anymore. So everything was handed over to Iwasarki, who became the everything and the leader of the household. That is also important, at least for our own traditional authority. And thirdly, in the Sarauta, they made improvements in terms of physical development. In the last 500 years, such has not been done. What he did, nobody did it in the last 500 years. So many things were changed, so many the infrastructure, for example, the Soran Circuit was changed. Saranan Garki was changed, and a special place was established for Her Highness Iwasarki, including some quarters that were incorporated into our own premises. All these were new. Since Muhammad Rumba, nobody did this until the coming of Sarkin Muhammad. And then, importantly, somebody who has been part of the economic system of Nigeria, when he became the emir, it was part of his plan to make Kano a model in terms of economic development. We know that the emirs of Kano have always played roles that are very important in our history. For example, Sayyid Alhaji Abdullah Bayero established the first water works in Kano, and then the first independent power plant in northern Nigeria. None has been made since Abdullah Bayero's time. 15 megawatts. We know Sarkin Muhammad Sanusi, what he did, Khalifa of the first Khalifa, he established the Bombay Industrial Estate. He had a UPE program which increased the enrollment from 4,000 to 14,000 pupils in primary schools. So when Sanusi came, there was nothing you could do because these are executive positions which the emir doesn't have anymore since 1960s after the Moderate Inquiry, the local government reforms, and so on. The emirs have been reduced. So the only way he can do is to keep leadership, which he tried with some institutions, organizations that he is chairman, like Babongona, like Rhino, and many others. And he tried to bring investment in Kano. But this has not been forthcoming. Even the state government was saying that Sarkin Sanusi is their economic ambassador. But this did not succeed because of the problem he had with the state government. And then Many things have also been said with regards to family law reform. We know how controversial it is, how he has been involved as a public intellectual in the debates on Sharia in northern Nigeria. So the committee was established with the chief Imam of Kano as the chairman. They had their report with Dr. Bashir, whom I expected was going to speak about that. And that law was drafted. It was the first such law in sub-Saharan Africa. And because we are food dragging, the President of the Nigerian Republic invited His Highness, presented people of Nigeria, as it was going to help them to reform their family lives. But up to now, nothing has been done in this part of the country. But the most important thing in which Sarkin Sanusi has had controversies with the government, as we have heard his colleague in the central bank talk about reforms and resistance, is his relationship with state. That is, to make the emir subservient to the state authority. Well, the problem we had has been inherited. It goes back to 1962, when Sir Ahmad Bello made his famous speech in the Northern House of Chiefs, which he said 150 years ago, some people had the opportunity to control this country and they did what they did. Then they were removed by the British, who spent 50 years and they did what they did. And then by result of fate now or destiny came to them that they have taken power and they have to do what they intend to do. So he said any emir who does not do what they have given him instruction to do, they must remove him. And what happened? Khalifa Sir Muhammadu Sanusi was forced to abdicate. So in essence, Sir Ahmad Bello, the governor of Sokoto, started this forceful subordination of the traditional institution. And that has followed up to the time that we are now facing. Therefore, this relationship became sour, and eventually what Sarkin Ibrahim Dabo has established in Kano for 200 years was altered. That is, in 2020, the Kano state government signed a law of emirate reform, in which they even changed a male additional kingmaker, and even the kingmaker's houses were affected. So this was all traced back to the subordination of the traditional institution by the colonial authority. Therefore, what Sarkin Sanusi was trying to do, or what he did as the emir of Kano, is to struggle and get that independence. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I would say it has not been forthcoming. But what we should realize is that this struggle has been going on. Even Sarkin Alhaji Adu Bayero, he had that problem. Because in his biography by Dr. Umar Ibrahim, he stated that Sarkin Alhaji Adu Bayero had struggles with the inferior aristocracy. Inferior aristocracy, that is the village heads, because of their problem with their nobility and the royalty. So that happened during the Second Republic, but fortunately for Sarkin Alhaji Adu Bayero, he had the support of the National Party of Nigeria, which was the ruling party. And unfortunately for us, Sarkin Muhammadu Sanusi did not have that political support, so they did what they did. Alhamdulillah, the only thing that we can say is that over this period of time, a sign has been shown to the traditional institutions in northern Nigeria that they should do something. Because if they don't do anything, one day a governor in Sokoto will install Sarkin Godir. What show of the trade will come back. So it is the ball is now in their court to follow and make reforms that will make this institution acceptable to the people, and the people will say it is their own institution, not a state institution. Because traditional institution should not be a state-controlled institution. It should be a people-controlled institution. It is something of the society, not something of the politicians. Once you leave it to the politicians, today it is another one, tomorrow is another one. anybody can come and just decide that today I'm going to have 10 Emirates, I'm going to have 40, like they did in some states. And we will wake up one day, we will have erosion of these values. Because what is the importance of traditional institution? It is heritage. We are proud that we have this heritage from Sheikh Usman and Fodio. We are proud in Kano that we have from first heritage. So if we allow it, as we are going now, that they are not independent under this kind of politicians, one day, even that level, we are not going to have it. So it's important that the traditional rulers over northern Nigeria find a space for themselves. If they don't, one day it is Malam Muhammadu Sanusi, tomorrow it will be another area. And unfortunately, as Ferdona has said it, because we started it, it will continue unless we find a way for ourselves and our own heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Malam Muhammadu, for that presentation and intervention on the role of the reformer in the northern traditional institution. Is joining us today is the third meeting. We have to run through this about topic the reformer Malam Sanusi, the second is the discussant on what was presented. Thank you, sir.
BBC da an yaba da mun kukurto, hata Jamus da muyar Amerika sai mahado, sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun jinjina gurfado, amma China sun masu sai tarado, sun ji su ma kuma sun yaba da mun kukurto. Sai ku sai ta koyi da kun ga mun kukurto, tunda mun kukurto kowa ya dan mun murdo. Radio Freedom masu yin kidado. Da ku ji mu kun ga ko a Eldorado. Sai ku kamo mu tashar mu kun ga mu kukurdo. Radio mu da farin jinin ta ta kukurdo. Ayyukan mu na maza kaga su mun lallado. Wasa sai yara, wasa sai yara. Wasa sai yara masu gardo. Kuma aiki kuwa shi ne mun kakado. Kayan aikin kuwa babu wanda mun ganganto. Kuma nisan ku idan ku kama mun murdo. Za ku ji mu nan a birnin ƙauye kamun kurdo. Kaifin muryar mu, kaifin muryar mu. Kaifin muryar mu sautin ya karado. Kuma nisa ku ji muryar ta su dado. Za ku kamo mu ta ma zayau mun kurdo. Muryar jama'a muryar yanci ta sarɗaɗo, 'yan siyasar mu a Najeriya da mata fado, yakin zaɓe ku yakin zaɓe ku yakin zaɓe ku har jiha ta Ondo, daga damtse ku yi kamfen har jiha can ta Edo, sai ku zo ga rediyo Freedom kukurdo. jita-jita kuma ganganin rudu ba mafato, labaran mu sai mu bincika kafin miyar yado, sannan mu faɗawa duniya mu kurdo. Shafukan mu kuma ko a kwamfuta ko sai ku sai ta Freedom Radio mun murdo. Ba bambanci wariyar lanin fata ba karkato, babu san kai ko batun harara ba mutum kudo. Ba ko sawa kai ma sai ka zo gidado. Mure jama'a ko wata kira ku tintudo. Katikan zaɓe ku zo ku sai saya mun kurdo. Sai shirin mu da mu kyakkyata yanzu za mu fado. Inda ran ka jo na tsohuwar zumadin mahado. Yaro sabon mutum zai dinga yado. Da kimiyyar musulunci gagar misala. Lokaci ga fatawa ilimi kwando. Kukan kurciya kusan su mai tunani kan gado. Shi ne mai gane abin da ke cewa a farfado. Idan rana ta fito haske zai budo. Da shirinmu na kaci-kacicin mu kokoro. Da Afirka Radio Freedom zai zarrafa do. Za ku ji mu na Kano ku kama dan mun murdo. Katsinawa zan fara wayo ba mun kokordo. Da jigawa har ma 'yan Kaduna murdo. Har Filato kun ga Jos nake nufi. Babu shakka za ku ji mu ranga ɗaukun kurdo. Nagarin can na Maradu kun ga mun kokordo. Ko azindar sai ku sai ta sai ku ɗan mun murdo. Aya mai makon ga murya ta karado. Har garin dosar ga mu nan mun kurdo. Har garin dosar mata mai sai ku ɗan mun murdo. Yin tallaga mu mun kokordo ko abinci na garau ne ko zubarodo masu waina da alkubus da mando ko abincin Chinese irin su kwado kamfanoni sai ku zo fitar lamun kokordo.
Were passing through. It is they found their rulers and their colorless in random sector. Then they will be disrespected. He said Kano had come of age. Muhammad Sanusi said Kano had come of age. The palace had to have a capital looking that any visitor will do that there. He is visiting one of the great states of the Sokoto Caliphate of Hausaland. That's why he's attended to. His model was not so well, but was Muawiyah, was his great-grandfather, Dabu. When he was trying to bring changes with regard to girls' education, as Malam Ibrahim Al-Dukran said, it was not Western Islam, because the West is saying that girls' education is, even the West, it's away from Usman Tampodio. Because Usman Tampodio was the first person in West Africa that says women must be educated. And when Sanusi was reintroduced, he was advocating this. Many people are, but he was the one that was trying to say that this culture of the jihad must be brought back. The dignity of that office must be introduced, must be asserted so that people will know that their traditional rulers are still relevant in the conduct of Islamic affairs.
So when he did that, he was copying Usman Danfodio. Because of that, even Nana Asma, that's why she had that name. She was seen as the person that have the entire spreading all over to reintroduce Western education among women. So what we are doing, sir, we know that you are trying to revive back the ethics for which the jihad stood for. And for that, we offer no apology. Even when he was seen as a person that was also independent-minded, he was not being independent-minded just because he wanted to do that. But he was doing that in order also to revitalize the position of Islam in northern Nigeria. When he said that some of the things that his other rulers did not do, for example, when even with regard to other things like even the education or the Al-Majid, he was saying the ways through which the Al-Majid system was operating was not in accordance with the Sharia. In a similar way that he said what his grandfather said about the issue of whether women could inherit houses, land. During the time of another of his grandfathers, Usman, because of the nature of family, land was not given to women as their patrimonial share. Because the changes in colonialism had made the life of women very loose. And it was thought that if they are given houses, then some of them could bring something immoral. But during the period of his great grandfather, Sir Muhammad Sanusi I, he reinterpreted the injunction. He said, no, yes, during that time it was okay, but now in the 1950s, colonialism has introduced a very nuclear families. People and extended family system has stopped. So if you refuse a woman her patrimony of a house or what have you, then what would happen if she is divorced, if she were to be divorced and she came back to their family and the family refused to accept her or her brothers refused to accept her? He reinterpreted and said from now onward, all women that are entitled to inherit houses must be given their houses. When Khalifa Sanusi was doing that with regard to what was happening to the Al-Majidi system, he was saying that the state during the Sokoto Caliphate was the supporter of the Al-Majidi system. But during colonialism, because colonialism is secularly oriented, the state ceased to be in control. He said, if the state ceased to be in control, that's why he challenges not only the emirs, but even the governors, that you have to sit down and think of what to do in order to save this Al-Majidi system, because that's what the Sharia put on you. As leaders of Muslim states, then you are to bring about those changes. You have to bring about the structure that will support the Al-Majidi system. Only then that your role as leaders of the Muslim could be acceptable even in the eyes of the Sharia, in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm being pressurized. I'm sorry, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I raise my case here.
Professor Janaya, thank you so much, and thank you for your understanding. We've still got a few things to go through. It is almost time for prayers. We have to be really quick. I apologize if I seem to be pressurizing you. Okay, the next guest speech is by Dr. Bashir Ali Umar. I won't spend time again going through his biography because again it's contained in your brochure. He's going to speak to the topic Muhammad Sanusi II, public intellectual, Islamic scholar and Khalifa of Tijaniya Sufi order in Nigeria. He joins us online. And can I please remind everybody that is to speak that we must respect the time if we are to get out of here when we're supposed to. Thank you so much. Dr. Bashir Ali Umar, please.
Thank you very much. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا وسيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على نهجه واقتفى أثره إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am indeed most honored to participate in this maiden colloquium in celebration of Khalifa Malam Muhammadu Sanusi II. I had made all arrangements to be present, but circumstances beyond my control made me to be able to join only virtually. But Alhamdulillah, I got a lot of benefit listening to the speakers, and I hope what I will say is going to be a benefit also to myself and to the audience. I did a slight change to the topic that I'm going to speak to, which is, I said, the impact and contribution of Islamic scholarship to the and to for and the public. Because of the time that I wrote to me, and I had also thought that a part of the topic was going to be covered by Professor Ibrahim Ahmed Bakari.
BBC da an yaba da mun kokorto, asa Jamus da muryar Amerika sai mahado, sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun gani kuma sun jinjina barbado, amma China sun masu sai tarado, sun ji su ma kuma sun yaba da mun kokorto. Sai ku sai ta koyi da kun ga mun kokorto, tunda mun kokorto kowa ya dan mun murdo. Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom, Radio Freedom, masu yin kidado. Da guji mu.
فأبني من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب. Oh Allah, give me an Ali who is going to inherit from me and from the family of Yaqub. And it is also because these families of scholarship, they are always engaging in prayer that may Allah put among their offspring people who are going to be first bearers of that scholarship. So this is the interpretation that you see when you find that families of scholarship or of scholars, you tend to find scholarship persisting in their family. And this is one of the things that had an inherent mark of the personality of Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi and the impact of scholarship, Islamic scholarship. He started his scholarship as it is the custom that Islamic scholarship starts with knowledge of the Quran. And this is in the famous school attended by all princes of Taron, the school of Malam Muhammadu of blessed memory. May Allah uplift his station in his sight. That is the school of the where he learned the Quran. And Alhamdulillah, he continued with his study of the Quran and his memorization. And then, despite his activities in university life, he was actually very active also in the student activism of the Muslim Student Society while in university. Even though he was in Suleiman Hall, and Suleiman Hall was known as the Progress Hall, he was always participating in the strong Islamic activities of Liverpool Hall, as I clearly remember, during the early 80s, towards the age of the time of his graduation from ABU. And then the most revolutionary decision that he took was the decision to leave temporarily his banking career and pursue knowledge of Islamic studies. And he went to the Sudan. At that time, Sudan was scholarship, was vibrant with scholarship because of its the political standards that were taken, the least of which was to declare its economic and financial system to be 100% Islamic. So that brought about a lot of ijtihad in the area of Islamic jurisprudence as it affects Islam, as it affects finance and the economy. And being an economist, that contributed to his pursuance of, and he did it with passion, but this was something which he pursued by choice. He had already had his master's in economics, so he went into Islam, he went into pursuance of knowledge of Islamic jurisprudence based on a choice. And that was why he pursued it with vigor and with a lot of courage and determination. I remember when I was in Medina in 1990, he visited me, went down the libraries, and all the main books of jurisprudence and commentaries of hadith, and also the tafsir of the verses of jurisprudence like the tafsir of Qurtubi and Fathul Bari. We bought some of them, and those that were not around, we said, she gave for the book exhibition, to buy them for him, and they were transported by our grandfather, the Karrama of Kano, may Allah have mercy on his soul. He transported all those books back to him, and we know now we are witnesses to what we saw of his very full library that had a very big section of Islamic scholarship. Now, what is the impact? How did this contribute to his future role as a public figure and as a public servant? When, as governor of the central bank, he pursued what the central bank had already started of integrating Islamic financial system, Islamic finance, into the financial sector into the Nigerian financial sector. His understanding of Islamic finance based on his knowledge of economics and knowledge of mu'amalat, especially because when you did his final thesis at the undergraduate level, he wrote on the impact of negative price movement on salam contracts as it affected the farmers of Sudan that were taking salam financing from the Islamic banks. So he was quite aware of the industry. And the moment the universal banking model was to be dismantled and to reintroduce a differential capital requirement for the banking system, he immediately postulated that based on his understanding of the operations of Islamic banks that collect investment deposits, which were acting as quasi-equity, there was no need for the Islamic bank to be as capitalized as the conventional banks. And this was what he was able also to convince the then President Council, President Jonathan, when we questioned him that why are you introducing a differential capital requirement for Islamic banks? He said, these Islamic banks, they are assisting investment deposits. This investment deposit, by the principle of Mubarak under Islamic jurisprudence, they are not supposed to be guaranteed funds. So they are acting as partial equity. So they don't need to be capitalized as conventional banks. A very, very strong argument that actually contributed to no small measure in settling a lot over the dispute regarding the introduction of Islamic finance. There is no doubt. I will now go to his role as an emir and his drive to bring about consensus among the ulama and revive a culture which started with the Khulafa al-Rashidun, which is that when new occurrences occurred, the Sahaba, right from Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Khalifa al-Rashid, then Umar radiallahu anhu, they used to gather the eminent Sahaba to deliberate on that new occurrence and come out with a consensus position. He had revived this when acting as Emir of Kano very strongly. The first one came when he served as the Amir al-Hajj during the Hajj of 2015, and we all know the unfortunate incident that happened of the stampede and how so many lives, thousands of lives were lost. That made him take a very revolutionary stand, a very radical stand regarding some of the practices of the Hajj that had the potential to lead to loss of life. But despite his radical position, he felt that the only way to avoid this is to engender a consensus among the ulama. And he gathered the ulama coming from all the different understanding from the Salafiya ulama, the Tijaniya ulama, the Qadiriyya ulama, from the university community, and they deliberated and came up with a position paper regarding the importance of protection of life and how that impacted on the performance of some of the rituals during Hajj. We got to protect life. And this position paper was presented at the National Conference of Hajj under the leadership of the Sultan, Muhammad Abu Bakr, and it was unanimously adopted. And now this practice, it didn't stop there. It also gathered ulama come and take a position regarding the proliferation of mosques and the importance of having a kind of central control regarding Jum'ah mosques and also the big ground in order to maintain the cohesion of the Ummah and the symbolism of coming together, the way it entails that makes Jum'ah to stand apart and also makes Eid to stand apart among the activities of the communal activities of Islam. And after several discussions, the ulama came with a position paper that had the acceptance of all the different eminent scholars of Kano. This was indeed a very great achievement. This was something which only someone who has the impact of Islamic scholarship and thing would be able to do. Because as we saw, it was the practice of the ulama. And after them, like Umar ibn Aziz was Khalifa, he also pursued that kind of reforms. This is a lecture in itself. But briefly speaking, we have a conception that the only way that we could reform our society socially is to integrate marital reforms with education reform, with economic empowerment. And doing this, it was something which is background of knowledge of economics and developmental economics as well, made him to realize this integration. And in doing that, we don't have a full committee were set up, and we actively participated in the argument, the jurisprudential argument. I remember we were doing a meeting in Zaria to go through the first draft of the Court of Administrators, which was part of the results of the maritime subcommittee, which I chaired. He participated actively in the debate, and because of his boldness, he was not afraid in presenting his views, because it is something. This is anything to do with the facts that based on proof and evidence. And he very happy he had his own evidence, and he was very engaging and very illuminating. And the ulama, I remember the kind of smile that he saw in their faces, because this was something which they were requesting, which was unprecedented. And Alhamdulillah, it had the impact of bringing about consensus. Because consensus is not something which can be achieved through by fear. It is something which can only be achieved as a result of conviction. And conviction is based on knowledge. And if the leader does not have that ability and does not have those qualities, very, very difficult for him to be able to engender the kind of consensus that Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi then as area of the big area of Kano was able to engender. I remember at last during the Sharia debates, when we were very active right to Untitled, and there were many influential discussions in the Nigerian Muslim network regarding the implementation of the Sharia. We had a very, very radical view. I remember in one of our discussions, I used to tell him that I see the potential of what Sheikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah had during his time, because he was deeply knowledgeable Islamic, also deeply knowledgeable of the movements of the mundane sciences that were in existence at that time, especially of philosophy. But I used to tell him that his background in the humanities and also his assurance of Islamic scholarship imbibes him with what will pave the way for him to make great contribution in integrating Islamic knowledge in this state, and also ensuring the relevance of Islamic knowledge to modern life, and also in contributing to the revitalism of Islamic scholarship and Islamic knowledge in this case. Because of time, I will have to stop here. Thank you very much. It was indeed an honor to be given this opportunity, and I ask Allah to bless this gathering and to bless above all my the celebrant who is who I am related both on my paternal and on my maternal side, to him on his maternal and his paternal side as well. Ask Allah to continue blessing his life and continue and making him the key that opens to a lot of good, not only for himself, for his family, but for the whole nation and for the whole humanity, especially the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى اله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Dr. Bashir Ali Umar. Clearly, scholarship runs in this family. I'd like to use this opportunity to send our good wishes to Professor Ahmed Ibrahim Mafari, who would have been the discussants of this paper, but unfortunately, like I said, had an accident coming for this event. It is, he's fine. We wish him a speedy recovery. Luckily, it was not too serious. Thank you so much. And while we are preparing to listen to the address of His Highness Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi II, I'd like to invite our traditional entertainers. To be clear, you have 5 minutes. Thank you very much. That short interlude of entertainment from the Koroso dancers. Thank you so much. We now have a short poem to be recited by a young man, and then we'll bring the Khalifa up to deliver his speech. The young man delivering a poem, where are you? If you're not here in 30 seconds, I will cancel this. Where is the young man who has a poem to recite? Okay, it's pre-recorded, so it's going to be played up there. Thank you. Is this poem ready or not?
Muhammad monarch of Che, astounded I was at the land of the croc to pay homage to Muhammad, great monarch of Che. Astounded I was of these events I relate. Men of men, leaders of state, came to his presence, all with their mates. A greeting acknowledged, a nod of the noble head, as fated, a maiden awaits and pays homage to the king. She is instantly rewarded with a royal salute. A lesson taught, simple to the point, women of value be the servants of slaves. In his court alone with the desert to proclaim, I can eat no more, pray take it away. The left satiated, bellies distended, passes a brim, extolling decay. He is the caliph of all nations that pray, embracing all, no discriminate. For I, a Fulani royal, was given 10 seconds that day, whilst a Christian subject is given a say. When he was custodian of the coins of nation, with him innovations arrival to date. O foe of the chain, the Allah that gladdens you whenever there's pain was brought to fruition by him whom you hold in disdain. The Swiss, Germans, bankers of note compete with each other to follow his way. A warrior king, Salahuddin Ayyubi, El Tugru Legacy, forged into one. For men remember your courage and speak of those days, when Magdag demons of Boko Haram invaded the lands of the when Lily looked men were scared to take a stand, confusion was rife and much at stake. A lone voice, hey,
They are not of Islam, they are not of us, all men come out to pray. The people spoke thus, O great one, indeed we are afraid. Civilizations destroyed, dwellings ablaze, pillage and plunder, order of day. Fear not, my children, the father replied. Allah is with us, I will not leave you a day and leave out of this fray. So it is said, and men will attest, out they came armed in droves, not unlike a bunch of clothes, come what may. For their caliph has spoken and will not lead them astray. That indeed was the turning point for his defiance to evil, the truly gave way. When they strove to enslave, ensnare our fate, over a towering Chinese metal snake, the first seeing king voted that backbreaking mistake. A philosopher king, Muhammad Sanusi, a fusion, Epictetus, Seneca and Socrates, the ultimate stoic. Patient in adversity, brave in calamity, not losing his humor nor wit, to laugh at life's cruel jokes when knaves became rulers of men. I put it to you, have you ever seen a Muhammad dishonored, disgraced? A feat tried by men and turned to ruin, for blessed is the name of the prophet who was never vain. O half-wit, averse to all that is noble and great, gaze into those messianic eyes. Do you not see the fire within the core, still a vision of flame?
Okay, unfortunately, we are going to have to cut this.
Proud but proud and feel.
And it's fully available. It's in praise of the Khalifa. It's quite long, and unfortunately, we have run out of time, so we can't run it in full, but it will be made available to the Khalifa. And now, it gives me great to ask you to please stand up and clap as we welcome our celebrant, Muhammad Sanusi II, reformer, His Highness Khalifa Muhammad Sanusi II, reformer, banker, religious leader, public intellectual, father, husband, and overall ruffler of feathers.
Thank you very much.
Media, before he starts, is really important that everybody is able to hear him and see him. So either you sit down or you leave your cameras on manned. This speech is important. We want everybody who's taking the trouble to be here to actually experience and hear what he has to say. Either you bend down or you leave your cameras on manned. Can we please try and represent this, our noble profession, properly? Okay, thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammadin ibn Abdullah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala. Your Excellency, my friend, my brother, the Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Muhammadu Sanusi, ably represented by my sister, Dr. Hadiza Sabo Balarabe, Deputy Governor of the State. Your Excellency, Matawallan Sokoto, the Right Honorable Amin Waziri Tambuwal, Governor of Sokoto State, my brother, my friend, in whom I am pleased and proud, Your Highness, Sarkin Zazzau, Ambassador Ahmed Nuhu Bamani. Your Highness,
Sarkin Al-Haji Sayyidi Abu Bakr Mahmoud, who has had to leave. Sarkin, for those who don't know, is a grandfather to us, the grandson of Sarkin Kano Usman II. He is over 90. I believe today he is the oldest surviving direct descendant of Emir Ibrahim Dabo. We sent him notice of this colloquium as a matter of courtesy, hoping he would send one of our cousins to represent him, and he insisted on coming all the way from Ringin himself. I thank him very much for that. Your Royal Highness, my host, the Emir of Awe, Sarkin Awe. Usually when emirs are brought into exile, they stay in the place for life or for years. Unfortunately, I was there for only 3 days, but thank you very much for your gracious hospitality. Thank you very much for keeping the contact. And I assure you that I will forever remember the people of Awe, and they will remain close to my heart. Jazakumullah khair. We have so many dignitaries, so many friends, so many relatives. I can see Engineer Abba Kabir Yusuf, Dr. Elkani, I've seen Ahmed Jamo, I've seen a number of many of them in politics, representative of Senator Bukola Saraki, my friend, my brother. Right below, thank you very much for your presence. Please forgive me if I do not go through all the names of all the people I have seen. I will recognize my wives, my children, the family. And I know there's a whole delegation here of cousins, the grandsons of Abdullahi Bayero who came in here, and many on the mother's side. Let me greet each and every one of you as equal brothers and sisters. I must mention Kingsley Morgan, thank you very much, and all the speakers who gave these speeches. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yesterday, I had the opportunity in the pre-colloquium to speak for an hour about my own journey in life. So I do not consider this an opportune moment to repeat that talk and to spend 1 hour on it. I do hope that the recorded Zoom program will be available for anyone who would like to go through it. It is a day in which I give thanks, and we will start giving thanks by giving thanks to those to whom first thanks are due. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us in Surah Luqman, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. Having thanked God, we thank our parents. And with the parents, of course, we start with the mother and then the father. Without whom we would not be here. They were the channel through which we came into this world. They were the ones who spent their time in training, in prayer. They are the ones who left us reputations and names that we tried to live up to. And they are the ones who were always there with us. most, we thank Allah for all the blessings that He has given to us. The first of which is the human beings that we have had to deal with. Family, friends. I'm one of the most fortunate persons in the sense that I have a number of friends. I mean, what I call real friends, but all my friends are special. I was saying when my family had a dinner on the 31st of July, very birthday, that may be one of the reasons that I'm able to face any challenge is that I know that no matter what happens, there will be friends who are standing, waiting for me. Nasir Erufai, Bukola Saraki, Herbert Wigwe, Ike Mokede, Adiko Dangote, all of them. You know, so it is a blessing to have people who are with you in good times and bad times, who are with you for who you are. And I've been touched all day with this colloquium. Ibrahim Sengi and his team, to be honest, I did not ask them to do this. I only heard about it and it was brought to my attention. I contacted them. This was largely supported also by the state government. We thank them for their support, Your Excellency. But usually, when people gather like this, it's for either someone who is in office or someone who is dead. When you leave office, especially if you're still seen as some kind of troublemaker, people don't gather to honor you. So it is something I remain thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. And what I will say briefly, in all these 60 years, is that my dream in life has always been to remain the same person. My dream in life has always been to live by the values that I set for myself and to stand by those values and be ready to face the consequences. But if there's anything I have to share with a younger generation, now that I'm 60, I think I can formally begin to consider myself as at least getting old. It is that the fears that we have are grossly unfounded. If you're told that you can go out, and as Kingsley said, when we started the banking reforms, I remember, on the eve of the banking reforms, every day, front page of newspapers, the CEOs were at the villa. They were friends of the president. President after president, they were oligarchs. They were untouchable. I remember when we started going after the bankers, someone called me and said, you know, you're a young man, you don't know what you're doing. You will not succeed. What have we done today? So far, 3, I think, or 4 of the wealthiest and most powerful bank CEOs in this country have gone to jail. And nothing happened. You know, you can fight any system. You don't need a large number. And people can have temporary power that they can use but the truth will always prevail. When I was suspended from the central bank, I gave an interview, and I made a famous statement. I said, you can suspend a man, but you cannot suspend the truth. And this is the truth that has come out. This country, as His Eminence the Sultan said recently, this country has a problem. We can't ignore the fact that things are not working. When you are in a society that is so abnormal, you cannot afford to be a conformist. Because if we all conform, the country will not change. Many years ago, when I was screaming about the trillions being spent on fuel subsidy, I remember there was actually an attempt to attack my house in Kano. I was in the central bank. Where are we today? We are face to face with the reality that this is unsustainable. And when the decision is taken, it will be even more painful and much more difficult than if we had taken it 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Whenever I am seen to criticize, I simply speak to the best of my understanding and try to advise and try to say that which I think is in the interest of the country. I have been critical of economic policies, and I've paid a price for it. But you know, the real price has been paid by the Nigerian people. It is a price we see in increased poverty. It's a price we see in increased insecurity. It's a price we see in a high rate of inflation. It's a price we see in the loss of the value of our currency. It's a price we see in the numbers around malnutrition, around unemployment, around out-of-school children, maternal mortality, and infant mortality. Calling me controversial or calling me an enemy or calling me a critic will not make those facts go away. And wherever we go, we must turn around and face those facts and that reality. So, am I happy on my 60th birthday? No. Because 60 years ago when I was born, the United States government's advisory was telling investors that Nigeria had a better economic future than Japan. Where are we today? Where is Japan? It's not about one government, it's about two governments, about decades of a people throwing away opportunities. And every time we are handed an opportunity to change, every time we are given a chance to reset, we go back to the same old thing. Like the French say, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. And you know, when I have a platform like this, I have to speak. I've tried not to say much, not because there is nothing to say, not because, as you know, I'm not afraid of speaking. The reason I've not spoken much in the last years is I don't even need to say anything anymore. Because all the things we are worried about have come. As they say, all the things we're talking about have come. In 1980, and these are numbers, look at the World Bank economic indicators. In 1980, Nigeria's GDP per capita on a purchasing power parity basis was $2,180. In 2014, it had risen by 50% to $3,099. According to the World Bank, where were we in 2019? 2,229. At this rate, in the next 2 years, in terms of purchasing power parity, the average income of the Nigerian would have gone back to what it was in 1980 under Shehu Shaka. How many years? 40? No progress. Zero progress. 40 years wasted. Between 2014 and 2019, on the basis of this index of the purchasing power of the average income of the average Nigerian, we had wiped out all the progress made in 35 years. We have a responsibility as a people to rise and improve the life of the people of this country. It's no longer about the government, it's no longer about political parties, it's no longer about traditional rulers, it's no longer about emirs. The days are gone when you see one class of people, whether they're emirs or civils, cannot talk, or they cannot do this, or they cannot do that. Those days are gone. When there's a fire in your house, everybody goes and gets a bucket of water. So we need to understand economics as a people. I think we have a little understanding of how economics works. We need to understand the implications of the choices that we are making. Because, 70% of the problems we have in this country, from insecurity to herdsmen and farmer clashes, all of them have their roots in economics. It's about resources. Even this shout for restructuring for this is about resources. We need to grow this economy and make it work for the poor people. I just wear 2 caps. And yes, I had this is a summary of my economic interventions. At the level of the North and at the level of Muslims, we need to look hard at ourselves and question the choices that we have made. And if we cannot make those changes, and Ibrahim Ado spoke about a law, and Bashir Ali spoke about it. We got scholars in Kano to sit for 3 years to draft a Muslim code of personal status that begins to address some of these concerns. That law was ready in 2019. It has not been passed. I also sent it to the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum, the governor of Plateau. I said, look, in case any state government wants it, give it to the governors. I have not heard anything back. We keep talking about poverty in the north. We keep talking about Nigerian. These Nigerian, I keep saying, did not produce themselves. I keep coming back to these issues. I know people don't like hearing them and they keep saying, well, you've said enough. No, we will continue to say it and say it until people get to understand that if you cannot maintain one wife and you marry 3, if you cannot maintain 3 children and you have 17, if you leave those children on the streets, if you don't educate them, if you don't give them training, you're going to have them grow up into young men that will be a problem to our society. The youth that you see on drugs, those that go into stealing and kidnapping, they are all products of that social system. We have to ask ourselves, is this what Islam said we should have? Are these the children that Islam said we should have? So, I thank God Almighty because in my life, in 60 years, I think God has blessed me with accomplishments that other people need different lifetimes. I keep saying, if I had just stopped as being executive director and chief risk officer in First Bank, I would have considered myself an accomplished person. A bank CEO, that is enough for anybody. Governor of the central bank is enough for anyone. Emir of Kano is enough for anyone. Khalifa Tijani. And so when I see that at 60, it has been God's wish to have me be a chief risk officer, to have been a chief executive officer, to have been governor of central bank, to have been emir, to have been Khalifa, I can only thank him. But it also means, since I'm sure there isn't a single Nigerian who has had these, it also means that I have the responsibility not to be afraid of anyone. Because if being afraid would have stopped me from being anything, I would not be where I am. And to understand that we have to stand for the truth, we have to speak for the people, we have to face the temporary inconvenience and discomforts that we have, but ultimately, it is only by standing by those things that this country is going to change. So I've tried to put many things together in a very short speech. I would like to thank the organizers of this colloquium. I would like to thank all of you who have honored me for being here. I assure you that I remain a friend. We continue to pray for all the leaders in this country. May Allah guide them to taking the right policies. May God heal our land. May God bring peace to our country. May God guide our youth. May God help us overcome the problems of poverty and sickness and inequality in our society and injustice. For my brother emirs and other traditional rulers, I pray that God gives you the courage to stand up and understand and remember that you are an emir of the people, not an emir of the government. Now, your primary constituency are those people who pray for you day and night. Unlike Karrama, they are not your slaves. And that if it comes to a choice between the government and the people, We hope that the government will also be for the people, so we will have peace and harmony. But if it comes to a choice between the government and the people, I hope we will all have the courage to stand by the people. On this day, it is usual to say, if I have offended anyone, forgive me. I will say that. I know some people will never forgive me, but it is usual. I will ask for that. Those who know me know that I don't bear any grudges anyway. But for me, I make deliberate choices. I make deliberate choices. I accept the consequences of my choice, and I'm proud to take those consequences, and I wear them as a badge of honor. So it's time for Dhur, and I have Her Excellency here, I have His Highness here. I do not want to say anything controversial and have them by association taken in. But what is left is for us to pray and to continue to pray and to thank you. And to say that I'm 60, but I think I am just starting. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I don't think there's any more that can be added to that courageous, honest speech by His Highness Malam Muhammadu Sanusi II. And we're fast coming to the end of this program, so can I ask people to please return to their seats? It's way past Zuhur prayer, so we need to be able to allow people to go and pray. Can I please ask people to return to their seats so we can conclude this program quickly? While I'm waiting for people to return to their seats, can I invite Malam Ismail Awad, the Secretary General of the Organizing Committee of this colloquium, as well as his team members, to come on stage and give us a quick vote of thanks, after which the chairman of the event, His Royal Highness Ambassador Ahmed Bamari, will close the event for us. Thank you.
I don't know.
Your Royal Highnesses, today is indeed a great day for Muhammadu Sanusi Annual Collection Committee, and particularly to me as a person. This day is a great day for us, Your Highness, because, Your Highness, I grew up all my life wanting to be like you. I am not the son of an emir. and I know I cannot be an emir. I do not study economics. I might not be a civilian governor. But Your Highness, all my life, I wanted to write and talk the way you do. Your Highness, this is to assure you that the fact you have created, there are thousands, if not millions, of youth like myself who will pass or travel through that path no matter how difficult life will be. And I assure you, you have given us a lens in which we see the world. Thank you very much, Your Highness. To my committee members, as you can see, most of them are older than I am. Your Royal Highness requested the secretary of this committee because they want to mentor. Not because I'm better than one of them, because they want to pass on the legacy of mentorship. To Your Royal Highness, the Emir of Zimbabwe, we say thank you very much and for being here and work throughout the colloquium. Your Excellency, ma'am, we say thank you for supporting us financially and in all the possible way you can. To His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Waziri Tambon, we also say thank you for supporting us financially and for having the time to join us. To all the people that joined us today, we say thank you for sparing these hours out of your life to honor His Royal Highness, Malam Muhammadu Sanusi II. And lastly, Your Highness, I have a message to pass from the youth of Kano State. Your Highness, your friend, the Executive Governor of Kano State, has started Hashim Shatira relationship. Your Highness, we are looking forward to see something like that from you. And to my team members, I say thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to be your secretary, not because I'm different from you, because it's a team, and of course, one person. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the hard work. May God continue to guide you.
Thank you very much for the organizing committee of this colloquium. I now understand why we didn't see a single female speaker. Even though the area is known to be a champion of women, education, etc., etc. Maybe by the second one, we'll see a few more women contribute their quota to this colloquium. Thank you very much. I need to bring His Royal Highness up here next, and I would appreciate you for returning to the seat, please. The final item is to bring back the chairman of this event, His Royal Highness Ambassador Muhammadu the Emir of Zaza, for his closing remarks. Your Highness.
All is well. Very sure that everything is now convinced that in all the speakers that have spoken eloquently and very, very well. And I'm pretty sure that the key areas that they have spoken about the life and times of they have This way, okay. Almost all of them have given terrific presentations, and we're better informed today. Listen to the historical development of the Emirate of Kano, and also the active participation of Nigerian and even beyond. And equally, in the time we will go to let out something very, very significant. That thing that he left out was the contributions and accomplishments of Muhammadu Sanusi at the Nigerian State Environmental Company, where he served as chairman and I was the managing director there. And it was during this time that we established a new factory, a full line of brand new machines that are currently producing Nigerian currency at the moment. So we're very, very proud of that accomplishment. As a result of the strategic thinking and also efficient leadership. So it was remarkable the leadership of the proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And we're all supported in that. Equally, we have learned so much from all the speakers, and we're grateful to organize this event. Let me take this opportunity also to thank the government of the state, especially the governor and also our deputy governor, for finding time to represent His Excellency. Equally, the governor of Sokoto State, we're grateful. Also very grateful to the family of Muhammadu Sanusi, and also I can see so many traditional title holders. Let me give a special thanks and appreciation to the Emir of Norway, who was a good host. Was already introduced by the science, the potential of Muhammadu Sanusi. Was taken to. So thank you very much for the gesture. I will forever be grateful to what you've done to Khalifa. To other members, before we time, the moderator, excellent moderator, Ahmed. She's done excellent well as expected. And we are not expecting anything less than this to deliver. So thank you very much. Every other person that is there, we appreciate you and thank you very much. We wish each and every one of you a very safe and virtuous destination. And also to Sheikh Michael that had an accident. Our heart goes to him and prayers, and we hope to see him probably next way. So thank you very much, everybody, and I wish you a very self-fulfilling and respected destination. Assalamu
The national anthem to close this event for me, please. Thank you.